Hey, it's Scott with Tadlock Roofing out here at 118 Derby Woods, and wanted to give you the overall roof condition. We've got a 3-tab shingle up here, and I'd say the overall condition is it's probably would indicate that this roof may be approaching the 10-year-old mark, give or take a few years. We look at the shingles here, there's some areas where they're starting to loosen up a bit, and you see how easy that one came loose there. That's pretty typical for these. We also see how they're easy to break up here and starting to get a little fragile. And that's just because as time goes by, the asphalt just starts to really get cooked by the heat, and they just become more brittle over time. So very natural aging for this type of shingle. And I think that's probably a pretty common experience we can see as we try to find different areas. And where this makes it vulnerable is the wind can, of course, blow rain underneath here. And many times, too, in heavy winds, you can see these actually flapping in the breeze. You see how the one above is starting to flap as well as I have movement on this. And that can lead for some blow-in rain. So I would definitely say that the house is becoming more vulnerable to especially severe storm elements when there's wind-driven rains. Some of the other things we see up here, too, are we've got some pipe boots that look supplemental. And these look like the neoprenes that have been put over the existing flashings. We can see that's not typically how it's been done, and looks like the flange is just not even connected there. And so perhaps the existing boots, which is indicative of that flashing we see underneath, may have started to deteriorate, and these were put over top and some sealant put around there trying to make those a little more substantial, but I don't think those do a great job of keeping the rain out in heavy rains if there's any gaps in that sealant. Some of the things I noticed down here too by the eave I want to point out to you is we've got some cupping that's occurring down here. Let me see if I can get close enough to where you can see right here along the eaves. See how the shingles come down and then they just kind of roll up a bit. What that cupping is usually the way the eave metal was installed when this roof was done, to where it's elevated that edge. In water, shingles only shed water. They can't keep all the water out, especially in heavy rainflows, and water can sit right along this edge and can actually be starting to cause some rot under there. So this would be an area of concern. If we take that off, you might find a few pieces of plywood that have been getting wet over time. Moving over here, we see some rust starting on the gas stacks, and that could probably be mitigated. It's not pitting too bad with some good rust killer and some good paint on those. Collars do look to be sealed. Rust offs here in a aging kitchen or bathroom vent. It's over in this location. More pipe boot. Another gas stack over here. We see some more areas as I get down along the plane. You can see where some of the shingles are actually, raised up, like in that area there. Again, more sign of loosening shingles. The aggregate surface is starting to go. Maybe you can see in the video here how some of that aggregate's getting real loose and just starting to come off of the shingles. And that just over time makes it more vulnerable to just the exposure to the UV rays, which is going to continue to accelerate the roof deterioration. On this side, definitely looks a lot cleaner, and that could just be because of factors like more sun exposure and more conditions favorable to some algae growth over here that are not over on this side. A little tear in a ridge cap there that we see, in a rusty nail fastener there. Sometimes can be a minor leak. Let's go to the back side now. Again, more cupping along the eaves down here. Valleys look pretty good. This debris that collects here from the pine trees, you always want to make sure you keep that out of there, because that can create some water damming and just stop the water from running off the roof, and it can create backflow actually up underneath these shingles. So it's always a good idea to keep that clear. Let's check your chimney flashing out over here. We can see some lower edges of the wood that are starting to get eaten up just by moisture, and that's pretty common when they're flashed this way. You see as the water just pours into here, that leading edge will just soak up that water and rot out over time. Don't see any real breaches in the flashing itself. Over here, I do see a suspicious area that as the water's coming in or might get blown over here, we can see how easily I can lift that up. And we've got this corner here that would take water in and just go straight down. So that's certainly an area of concern that should be addressed. So move to the top. There's some displacement of the chimney cap. We see how it's not really firmly attached, and good wind could actually displace that quite a bit. So it'd be a good idea to get that reattached. A good deal of rust up here at the top. Also, as water collects, not sure. As we roll under here, we got all the sealants that are there have been displaced, and water could just roll right in to that section. So might be getting some water traffic into the chimney area, and certainly that's something to be of concern. So that chimney cap really should be replaced and reattached more firmly. Overall, similar conditions along the back here. Got your power vent up there. And I think that's the overall conditions. I would say that this roof, with some minor repair, could extend life for maybe another few years, but I would certainly start budgeting and thinking towards a new roof in the coming years, especially just to mitigate any severe storm risk. So there you go. That's 118 Derby Woods.